strengths, really, is it?
No.
No, that's pretty. It's just kind of. I was about to say it's classic CEO, but it's not really. CEO is meant to be generally quite good at a lot of things. Probably exceptional at one or two, and then usually one or two like catastrophic weaknesses. So yeah, I wonder whether we could kick off simply by discussing that. No, we're already in the show. We've gone live actually, so let's get on with it. Welcome everybody to Brainfood Live on Air. This is episode 25. 25 episodes, it feels like some sort of achievement, but hey, it's only live streaming, so it's not that big a deal. But welcome everybody to the show. Very pleased to have you. For those of you who don't know what we do a video webinar live stream every Friday to discuss the content we shared in the Recruiting Brainfood newsletter last week, the stuff that's been going on in the industry throughout, and what we've been talking about in the Facebook group also. I'm your host, Hung Lee, and I'm joined as ever by my co-host and former chief promoter, because he stopped doing that now, my former chief promoter, Adam Gordon. Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. I mean, hold on. I still am the chief promoter because I get everybody in my company to share all about it. So I am indirectly.
You can't delegate
head of the promotion department.
You can't delegate promotion, mate. So you are severely lacking. We are, as I told you last week, we are scoring this. So you don't get points by instructing your team to promote Brainfood. If you care about your own personal status, it's got to be a return to the LinkedIn sort of update here, mate. But anyway.
You need better algorithms so that you're capturing all the referrals.
Algorithms, all I'm doing is doing it manually. Everything about Brainfood is the most low-tech thing ever. No algorithms. It's literally me looking on LinkedIn to make sure people are doing what they said they've done, and copying it, copy and paste. So it's a low-tech operation, I can tell you that.
So I need to tell everybody. Hung messaged me about. Hung messages me, and he just says one word, Adam, which means I want your attention. And I replied back about 25 minutes ago. Went, yeah, no problem. Look, I'll be on probably just about 2 minutes before we go live. Normally, I'm trying to be on a bit before that. And he messaged me and said, yeah, get your Nando's finished, because I actually did have a Nando's last week, but I wasn't having a Nando's. I was talking to somebody who's given me a message for you. I was talking to Roy Baladi.
Oh,
from Smart Recruiters, head of partnerships at Smart Recruiters, and he says he wants to invite you to host a debate at Hiring Success in Amsterdam in 5 weeks' time, a debate on the future of work between Kevin Wheeler, recruitment futurist, and Karen Revoir, who is at IKEA, and she is the head of competency flow, which means HR.
Yep.
In IKEA language. Flow. And so he asked me to pass on that message to you. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it live on Brainfood so that everybody gets to hear all about Hiring Success, which is going to be, in his words, the best event talent acquisition has ever seen.
You know what? That's very kind of Roy to invite me to do that. I'm actually quite intimidated because those two people sound quite intelligent. And I'm really not sure how that's going to expose me publicly, really, isn't it? But okay, I'll do it, Roy. That's not a problem. And Hiring Success is a fantastic event, by the way. Recruiting Brainfood has got an extraordinarily good discount for the tickets. That's not an affiliate deal. All the discounts are passed on to you, the delegate and subscriber. Basically, I think you can get the tickets for about a third of the price if you put in a particular code and you bring one other person. So I'll share that somewhere later on today, so that everyone in this chat stream has got access to that. Anyway, speaking about you, Adam, but before we get into the meat of this, how is your crowdfunding going? Have you hit your target yet?
Well, I take it that's what Daniel's comment is about down there. Adam looks richer every time I see him. Yeah, 470,000 down.
Wow.
£30,000 left. So yeah, went up by another 20 grand yesterday. So it'll be finished by this show next week.
Yeah, end of today, it's going to be finished. You're talking about 30 grand to go. I mean, surely there's somebody listening right now that's just got 30 grand burning in their pocket that they want to get rid of. So, so yeah, pile in, folks. This is a winning ticket. Anyway, I'm going to share that link. Actually, you may as well share the link to the chat stream, Adam, if you want to get some people to look at it. But if you've got on the Smart Recruiters thing, there's Hiring Success. Check that out. Great lineup, absolutely amazing. If you go and use the Rec Brainfood team promo code and you add one more person, you can get a team ticket basically for about 500 quid. And that's obviously between two people, so 250 quid each for a 2-day event with the speaker lineup that they have there. It's an absolute bargain. So if you're in Amsterdam next month, I think on the 10th or 11th of September, get yourself to it. Okay, so enough about that chit chat and your Crowdcube business, Adam. Well done on that, by the way. I look forward to celebrating your inevitable close of this round. Be very exciting. But whilst we're talking about it, Recruiting Brainfood. Have you had time to read Recruiting Brainfood last week? And if so, what was interesting for you?
Yeah, I have. And so the first one I like is Jeff Moore's finding the best talent. You got to build the widest network.
Yeah.
I think about this in terms of the total addressable market. If you have got visibility on everybody that you might hire for the jobs that you regularly hire for, at least, then you've got a massive competitive advantage. And that's absolutely achievable today. We should know pretty much everybody. If you're hiring robotics engineers in Seattle, you should know who all of the robotics engineers in Seattle are, and you should be able to create alerts which tell you as soon as somebody moves in from San Francisco to Seattle and they're a robotics engineer. So I absolutely agree with the principle of all of that.
And Jeff, by the way, previous guest on the show, he is the director of staffing at Google, and you know he's a remarkable guy because he's one of the few people I've seen that is both great at what he does, but also great at writing about it. Like his content production is really remarkable for a guy that has a job that he does, and it's not ghostwritten. It's totally him that does that. But he's writing about two blogs a week, it looks like, and each one of them is just taken from all of that experience he's got in recruiting out in the valley there, and it's gold. You know, it's brilliant to have kind of a practitioner like that in your business that can also be such a great promoter and employer brand person like he is. So he's a massive asset for them.
Well, he's leading by example because if all of the hiring managers in Google are writing a blog once every 2 weeks, then that's thousands and thousands of pieces of content they can use to inspire candidates with. So, you know, I applaud him doing that, and I hope that he's sharing successes and getting other people to do the same thing.
I think so. I'd love to see some of his team actually get involved, but it doesn't seem. Maybe he's taking the leadership on that. But next time I speak to Jeff, I'll figure out you know where who has the responsibility or in fact license to produce content there. So anyway, link is shared in the chat stream. Please do check it out. What else was interesting for you, Adam?
The listicle of the best Chrome extensions for marketing.
Oh yeah, wicked. Yeah.
They're pretty technical. So if you're the kind of recruiter that's like a really kind of right brain sales animal, then this maybe isn't for you. But if you're into technology, then some of these things are really, really useful. So some of them I already knew, like Ghostery, for example, that tells you what trackers are on a website. Things like Grammarly, which basically tells you if your writing is good, things like that. But then there's some others that are, I mean, they are really, really quite niche.
Yeah, just a lot of these I had no idea on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Redirect Path, for example, is about, it checks if your HTTP codes are optimal or not. You know, it's really, I mean, I would say that's pretty much getting into the growth hacking area where you need to be not an engineer to do it, but you need to be really technical to use this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. We're definitely heading towards. I mean, there's a term called technical resourcer, isn't there? Technical sourcer or technical recruiter, and oftentimes that refers to someone who's either recruiting technology people, but it can also be meant for that growth hacking style of person. Which, in fact, Tris is there. He's probably one of the leaders in terms of trying to create that type of concept of a recruiter that has a lot of these types of technical skills. But yeah, I think that listicle from Wistia is excellent. And Wistia, by the way, produce great content. They're a marketing blog. They do great content of this type. There's actually quite a new discovery of mine, but they're excellent. And I agree, if you're technically minded and you want to play around with tooling and what have you, the list of the best 20 Chrome extensions for marketing, I think at least 10 of them are going to be applicable for recruiting. So check that out if you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I saw there was another guide to recruiting engineers if you're not one.
Yes. How to interview engineers if you're not technical, yeah?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those. I think there's been one or two before. And
you don't sound too enthusiastic about that, Adam.
No, I am. I think it's great. It's useful, very useful. If you're non-technical and you're recruiting software engineers, for example. Yeah, it's good.
It was a guy, I forget his name, but it was a guy who was he actually managed a software company. So this is a strange one in a sense. It's a very technical business, but he's a non-tech person who founded a software company and found himself having to assess these people. And he's just written like a great blog post, 5 bullet points as to how he's done that. And you can argue to toss one with the other as to how effective it is, but fact of the matter is he's built a business, selling software or selling software building services. So he's got to have something right there. So check that blog out, particularly if you're a recruiter and recruiting for tech folks. Damn useful.
Yeah. The ultimate guide to what typeface you should use.
Yes.
In your email. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It sends psychological messages to people. It creates mental shortcuts when you're typing in a particular font. You can come across as really formal, or you can come across as a bit of a joker, depending on what kind of typography you use.
You know what? I came across this blog, for people who don't realize, it's written by a service that is a mailing service. So they're used to sending lots of emails, but they've obviously done some analysis really in terms of what is the history of these fonts, and that was quite fascinating for me. Just taking a massive segue into how Times New Roman developed and all the rest of it, and why Arial was like a rip-off of Helvetia or something like that. But anyway, super interested on that. But there is a psychology to it, psychological impact, which we all know. Comic Sans, you can't take that seriously. You want to make impact. You don't actually use impact because that's too comical. So yeah, it's a super interesting post because it does describe things that we probably don't pay too much attention to. All of those small touches that could make the difference. And there's a joke obviously in the middle of it saying size matters, right? But I wonder whether recruiters do think about that. Like we all default to font size 10 or 11, I believe, something like that. But what if you started emailing in font size 14? Does that improve your response rate? Has anyone tried that? And if not, why not?
I don't know. I actually might ask Billy McDermott about some of this because I'm going to ask Billy McDermott about this because he'll know. He'll have tested these things. So Eve is saying that smaller fonts work, and I'm not sure that that's the case because people want short messages, and so they don't want to read very much.
Well, you know what? That's kind of counterproductive to what I would assume. But I respect Eve's thought process. Certainly, he's basically talking about packing more information in a single screenshot rather than sort of having to scroll. My sort of understanding was, hey, listen, you bang up the font, make it easier to read. But maybe that's incorrect.
Yeah. if you know that somebody's got short-sighted, then maybe you could automatically send them bigger font.
Maybe it's offensive to do that. I don't know. Like, you're trying to baby them a little bit, which is not what I want to do.
Is it offensive or effective? I think it's effective.
I actually don't know, but I think that ultimately it's quite an interesting thing to experiment with. No one, to my mind, has experimented with it. So yeah, this is an A/B that someone should try and do. So go for it, whoever's reading it right there and then. Okay, what else is interesting, man?
Can we do two more? I know that Maury's only got till about past. So
okay, okay.
Let's do two more quick ones. Content creators on YouTube have basically organized and like almost unionized in order to have a bigger voice. And I think that this is an interesting development because I don't think we've seen this before.
We have seen it before because we are starting to see employees becoming super activated in defense of their own rights, particularly gig employees or employees that are not in that. In fact, employees are the wrong term. Workers that are not employees, they're basically organizing in self-interest. Apple developers tried to do this last year because they know that their voice as an independent developer is very weak compared to the platform. But if they've got enough people together, then maybe they can go and do something about it. And the YouTubers here are doing exactly the same thing.
That's a little bit different though, because those people actually work for Apple, do they not?
No, they're just third-party developers. So you might be a developer submitting apps to the App Store, but Apple will take 30% out of you, and they have all these kinds of constraints. What the developers try to do independently was to organize, to negotiate in this way. It didn't work because they're basically too disparate and they couldn't make it happen. But I think this is something to keep an eye on. You know, we care about sort of the rights of gig workers and all the rest of it. We've got a load of government regulation coming in. But I've got a feeling the gig workers are going to take care of themselves in some way. They're much better able to handle it if they're able to organize in the same way that industrial labor organized back in the day. So this is the new sort of way in which employees, quote unquote, will negotiate with employers. So very interesting to monitor.
It's kind of more like a commercial negotiation than a HR type thing. However, it's definitely a future of work issue.
Yeah, it's not benefits. None of these people, they're not talking about increasing holiday. None of them got a holiday. But it's about getting a bunch of freelancers organized together. And that actually can be quite powerful if you're dependent on those freelancers, for instance, which YouTube is. These are creators. Without the creators, you could be screwed. So yeah, super interesting. Yeah. Okay, one more before Maury comes on, man.
Yeah, very last one, and it's pretty simple and lighthearted, but crimes dropped so much in Japan that the police perhaps need to move on secondment to the UK because we need 20,000 more of them apparently. So secondment of Japanese police over to the UK. Japan, there's no crime. The UK, there's some. That's a marriage, I would have thought.
It is, and it's a funny story, isn't it? Where like massively over officious Japanese policing, running that, sending a squad of people to arrest someone for mounting a curb on a bicycle or something. But it's also, I thought the reason why I included it was not because Japan is kind of consistently interesting as a culture, but also it kind of points the direction that could be a coming future for all of us, where if we're looking around the corner and at tech unemployment and automated workforce and so on, we're likely to have a surplus of labor in all industries. In which case, aren't we all going to become a little bit like the Japanese police officer, kind of inventing work to do and becoming over officious and super disciplined and getting overly manned, overly resourced to do a small act? I can totally see that happening. I've seen it in different countries actually, that have got strong positive discrimination, if you like, policies. And typically you've overhired for the service, for the requirements of that particular instance. and you got a bunch of people hanging around, each of them doing a job that one person could do. You go to a restaurant, there's one guy who takes your coat, another guy who pulls your chair out, another person that puts the napkin on your table. There's should be one person doing a job, three people doing the job. And I just wonder whether that's the coming future for all of us, who knows?
I imagine the Japanese police are very, very good at taking photos for Instagram. For tourists.
Maybe so. I'm sure it's a very photographed and photogenic type of country, I think.
Sure is.
Anyway, we're moving on because we have to talk about video. This is the point of this show, video in recruitment. Very exciting it was. And this is inspired actually by your chat with Ryan McCabe at Odro last week. And I just think we're at the stage now where we know video needs to be used. It is being used, but are we using all the use cases? So the intro to the show, before I bring Maury on, I came up with 5 kind of ways in which you can use video. First way, enhance job descriptions, right? You can basically make your job descriptions more interesting by, instead of going with text, you go with video. Number 2, enriched messaging. So in other words, instead of sending a text-based message, you can send a video instead. Way number 3, you can use it to do employer branding, authentic employer branding. As you say, get the hiring managers to shoot a quick 60-second video. You got all kinds of stuff you could use there. Number 4, video notes. This is what I do. You know this. I don't call people. I send video notes because I basically don't want to talk people in real time. And the video note is better than a text, I think, and it gets the message over, I think. Which I think could be used in recruitment a lot more, particularly if you're on WhatsApp and stuff like this. And finally, asynchronous video interview, which I think is the classic way in which you want to do it. You simply assess people by sending them a link, inviting them to do the interview, then you can watch it, listen to it, and then do what you need. Anyway, there's my 5.
One more is synchronous video interview.
Oh yeah, classic. Yeah, the Skype. Let's get on a Skype call, right?
Yeah.
That's the old school boring, but it's true. You can use video for that. Okay, let's bring Maury on, shall we? Because she is an expert at this, and in fact, she is one of the ladies that has pioneered, or at least is launching a product. Has launched a product that does the enriched job descriptions, I think. Isn't that what
job adverts specifically?
Job advert. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I met Maury for the first time about 18 months ago in New York, and we were in a bar in Manhattan. And
Yes.
We got introduced by Brian from Talent Tech Labs, and 20 minutes later I was still asking questions because I really liked her way of explaining
Fantastic.
what it's all about.
And Maury, really good to see you again.
Hey.
Your volume is super loud, Maury. I wonder whether there's a way you could turn it down just a touch.
Let me try. Does that help? Am I
No.
still blasting you?
You are a little bit.
Because now I'm not hearing you.
Oh.
You've turned down.
How about I just get the mic? Did that? Can you still hear me?
I think that's slightly better. Yeah, slightly. That will work perfectly. Yeah. Thanks, Maury. I was just worried about some of the guys that got tinnitus and the thing there. They'll be blasted out. So, anyway, welcome to the show. Really good to see you. We're going to be talking about video. I know you've only got a couple of minutes, Maury, so I don't want to burn too much time. But we're talking about where we're at in terms of progressing video in recruitment, and I think we've made massive strides. Right? Have we won the battle in terms of, hey, listen, everyone should be doing something with video in recruitment now?
Let me be contrarian here. I think there's a ton. I think video is being horrifically used. There's more of it, which is a good step because people are not reading long paragraphs of text anymore. But there's a ton of stuff out there that's incredibly generic. People are producing these corporate brand videos that are beauty shots of their buildings and people saying, "Oh, I love my coworkers. It's a fun place. We're a family." And then they're putting them on YouTube and thinking that the world is going to come and search YouTube and find their video. So it's a start. There's awareness that you need to do video, but people aren't doing it strategically. There's a whole, like anything else, you need your purpose for your video. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to drive applicants? If so, then you need very, job-specific, rec-specific information, probably from the hiring manager. Are you trying to, entice people to at least consider your jobs? That's something entirely different. And where are you putting those videos? Is it where people's eyes are already watching? And YouTube is not the place, because people don't go to YouTube to search for jobs. So we're starting to get there. But even one of the big things that I rail about all the time is just length. When you think about where somebody is in their job search, determines how long they're willing to look at a video. At the very front end of a job search, if you're thinking, maybe I'll take that job, maybe there's something interesting there, they're not going to watch a 2-minute video. So take your 2-minute corporate video and lose it.
Maury, I love the fact you're annoyed, because this is going to give us great content. So what is the most annoying thing that you see? I mean, you've already mentioned a few things, but the thing that you see, like one mistake that employers are making all the time, what is the one thing that you think, if I can get rid of that, the world would be a better place?
Okay. They're trying to produce one recruitment video or like 3 employer branding videos that cover everything. And the information that your front-end engineer is interested in is so different than the information your internal audit person is interested in, is so different than the university grad who's just starting. Anytime you try to do one generic video or even a couple generic videos, you don't satisfy any information need. And given that we're all walking around with high-def cameras in our pockets, and they're really good platforms for capturing data, there are really no constraints anymore to being able to do very results-driven oriented video. So that's my big thing. Do it for a purpose, do it well, measure it, and get on with life.
I was with a recruitment agency in London yesterday. They have 150 recruiters, and the head of marketing said, I've got a real problem with generating content. I said, if each one of those people 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, comes out of an interview with a candidate, gets their phone out, shares a highlight from the interview they've just done, that's 450 pieces of content every week from your recruiters.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, so content, to unlock content generation, you got to basically get it from the employees, right? If people are sitting there thinking we can't produce content, actually you have to understand all of your employees are potential content producers, and your job is to actually unlock that and not just hold it as the sole person creating content. I think that seems obvious to me, but clearly it's not a message that is the case for a lot of businesses out there.
Right. And then the other piece of it is, what do you do with that content? If you put it on your website and think, oh, we've got video. There's a great study done by Career Builders. They looked at 5,000 websites. They figured out that 92.5% of all visitors only went to a job posting page and left. Of the 7.5% that went to the home page of the career site and all the content there, only 1.5% of visitors ever watched the video. So if you put a whole lot of time and energy into a video and you've plunked it on your career site and you think you're getting lots of views there, go look at your stats. All of that's available to anyone. You can see how many people actually watch that video and see if you're getting the return for it. Probably there are places you can put it.
Everybody knows that's marketing. Nobody wants marketing.
No, actually, Maury, can I just jump in? I mean, so you're saying, is it a waste of time to host videos on HQ? I mean, should you put it somewhere else? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. You need to put your video where people are already looking. And generally where they're looking is social media.
Yep.
If you want to recruit someone, let's go back to engineers, because that's everybody's pain point right now. Although also call centers hourly is a big pain point too. Let's say engineers. Your engineers went to school with, worked other places with, went to conferences with other engineers. That's who they're probably connected with. That's their social. So that's where their eyeballs are. So if you can get your engineer to share a short video that says, hey, we're doing some really interesting stuff with this project, or if you're really interested in radio frequency engineering, if you're really, we've got some opportunities, bingo. You've put the right content in front of the right audience. Now you're doing something productive, rather than let's make a recruiting video. Go drive your results.
You know what? I really like that, because you're closing the gap between production and distribution, aren't you? Whereas in the traditional sense, you'd be at home producing something, you'd stick it on your website, and then you'd just be shouting at your team to share it, which everyone does, and no one ever clicks on it, right? The complete waste of time is if you have some asset on your HQ and you get your employees to share it, nothing happens other than embarrassing your team. Whereas what you're saying is you go to where this person may natively be traveling, and because they want to be in these places anyway, and get either them to produce the video or at least distribute it right there and then, and forget about HQ for the time being. If people are interested, they'll find their own way via the asset that you've produced.
And they're really good platforms now. I'll plug my own for Amplify and Sparkstart. Really good platforms to make it easy to do that. You know, there haven't been good video content, video management platforms before, but now there are. They're easy to use, they're inexpensive. There's no reason not to have this and have it work well. It doesn't have to be hard.
What would you say when you say, so your product here is Amplify, and you mentioned there's a few, there's a category of these products now. Is the primary user for that product an employee, or is it still going to be the marketing person, do you think?
Amplify we designed for employer brand recruiting people. So you can put all your recruiting videos in one place. You can use it to capture and request videos from employees and then share directly to social media, or send a link where people can actually see the video in a branded page. So they're not on YouTube with all of the other distractions. I mean, YouTube is brilliant at clickbait. Right? That's what they do. They pull you down that rabbit hole with all the concerts you'd rather watch and all the other kind of stuff. So you don't really want to go back and watch that recruiting video. So, you know, we designed it so when you do send a video to a candidate or you make it available, it's in a branded page, but it's designed for employer brand. There wasn't a really easy, simple system out there. So that's why we did it.
No, that's interesting. And I think you're right on YouTube. I've seen some really well produced recruiting corporate videos on YouTube, and they've got like single figure kind of views. I'm like, oh my God, this person's put this amount of effort in. But you are competing against like all these music videos, all these amazing kind of trailers and cinematics and all this gaming stuff that's coming in. Of course, you're going to be distracted to that stuff. It's much better than whatever we're going to be talking about online in the recruiting context.
I personally think that the more over finessed something is, the more it looks like it's been paid for, the more people switch off, and they really want to see, what does that person actually sound like? What is that person? How do they motivate their team? What are the exciting things their team are working on? And what do they really want from somebody coming into their team? And I just don't think that I don't think people fall for over finessed videos today.
No, there's actually data that says that informal video is more credible. Yeah. And even if the person speaking messes up a little, if they stumble over a word or they look away from camera for a minute, that's how normal people speak. And so they believe it. They believe it's one of, their friends make videos and put them up and they're not perfect. We're used to informal video. So there's just more credibility to it. Guys, I hate to do this, but I got to jump. I have
Thanks, Maury.
have a client waiting on the call, so I got to go.
Maury.
But always a pleasure. Anytime, love to talk to you guys.
Thanks a lot, Maury. Appreciate it. Go close that client. Good luck to it.
I will. Thanks. Bye.
That's definitely the first time. That's definitely the first time that a guest has excused themselves.
No, that's, you know what, our chat is kind of mediocre at best, so it doesn't surprise me that that she had to duck out. But she's great. I mean, Maury's got loads to offer, and I'd love to dive a bit deeper. But she's already said some interesting things there. About the content production side of video, and the big stick. If you make it into this huge project, then of course it's not going to be produced, and of course you're going to be more reticent to do more of it because there's so much pressure on it being a quote unquote success. Like, imagine if you put all the effort in, you got like 10 views, you're going to be devastated. But if you spend 30 seconds on it, like you do with your walk and talks, Adam, I do with my walk and talks, like, all right, you got 10 views, who cares? You got to have a disposable attitude to it sometimes.
I totally agree with that. And she's also right about the mistakes thing. I tend to do, when I'm walking and talking, it's because I'm trying to be efficient with my time. I'm on the train on the way into the city center. Between the train and my office, I'm walking, so I'm killing time. I've probably had an interesting thought that I want to share on the train. Yeah. And so, if I make a mistake, I'll leave it in. I don't care. I did nearly get knocked down a couple of weeks ago, but I still put it on.
That would actually, not that I want to encourage this, but that would probably be a very highly watched video if that did actually occur. But no, I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, the reason why I do the walk and talks is ultimately because it is kind of like a cheap way to do marketing. I mean, everything that I'm doing is obviously cheap. You might be aware of this. My people are watching this right now.
He spends all his budget on me as the wingman.
Well, I don't pay you, man. That's very clear. I need to make that 100% clear, because my credibility as an entrepreneur would tank if there was any commercial transaction here. We're like, what you're doing, spending money on this guy? No, there's no money being spent. But when you're walking, you're literally doing nothing, right? So you might as well do a to the camera for 30 seconds if you have a thought, and chuck it out there. You know, there's literally nothing wrong with that. And sometimes that might work out for you. It's like,
where'd you do your walk and talks? Because you occasionally send me a message, which is you walking and talking, and you're talking to me. Press send, but I've not seen you doing any online anywhere.
No, like basically, I do all my calls and videos when I'm walking, because I think that when you're not walking, you've obviously got sort of asynchronous work to do, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm on a screen, but if I'm walking out there, then I'll use that time to call people, typically with video notes. So that's a walk and talk. And if I've got time, I'll stick something out on Instagram / Facebook, related to, you know, a conference I'm at or something I'm doing, that's somehow related to recruiting Brainfood in some way. It's just a bit of content, a bit of news, bit of update. Why not? You know, so yeah.
Glenn's just said that I think you can create really well-produced employer branding videos, but you need to get the content messaging absolutely nailed for it to deliver. You definitely can produce high-quality production employer branding videos.
I beg your pardon.
What you have to bear in mind is that's point of sale material. The only people that are really going to watch that are people that are basically thinking, do I want to work there or do I not want to work there? And they're deep into the research on that. Anybody that's a bit further up the funnel, they don't care. They're just not interested in anything that looks like marketing.
Well, hang on. Explain this to me. When you say point of sale, so are you talking about first contact? So a candidate first contact to a brand, a nice video might be the right thing to do. Well produced. We're talking like, let's spend a couple hundred grand on that. That's good money to spend for first contact.
No, it's not. It's good money for the person who comes to your website and is making, and they're at the point of deciding, should I apply for this job?
I see.
So first contact, definitely not. First contact, if you're a recruitment agency, use Odro and do those like 30-second video with the high hung on here so they know it's the right person, and do it like that. Much better response than,
you know what? I'm gonna bring on Mark Lundgren right now, because he is one of the recruiters out there that has been a real pioneer in using that style. I don't think he's used Odro, but he's sent me messages like this way before I started doing it. So this idea of sending a video message to do outreach, I think, is a really clever thing. So I wonder whether Mark is still there. He might have got bored and jumped off, but if he's there, I'm going to invite him on now. Let's hope he's appropriately dressed. There we go. Oh, he's here, definitely. So I'll invite him on. But I think he's one of the early people to have done this. And let's see what best practice he can share with us there. Because that's the classic recruiter stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this and hearing about employer brand and all this type of great stuff. But if they practically just need to increase their engagement levels from a candidate they're reaching out to, can you use video to do that? And the answer is yes. And you know, Mark has got some good examples of that. So hopefully he can get on. Mark, I've just invited you, man. You just need to accept and get on. Yep, I think that's happening. I tell you what, another useful way to use video is that you can also use on-screen stuff to demonstrate something and send them that link. So I'm using Loom for a lot of that. I remember doing recruiting Brainfood. You know, when we were selling kind of partner slots on the homepage. Most of that was achieved through me sending Loom recordings to people, because I was describing to them, hey, listen, this is how it's going to be, rather than what it actually was, because there wasn't anything on the site right then. So I had to give them a diagram But rather than sending them an email, I kind of just shared my screen as I was clicking through to show them what it looked like. Okay, Mark can't get on for some reason. That's a shame.
We have Nicolas and Erin from Easy Recruit also to talk about assessment.
All right. Let's talk about video assessment then. Mark, we're going to try and get you on a bit later. Hang on with us. Where is Nicolas? Is he on here? I'll try and find him.
Erin definitely is.
Okay. Oh, so this is Erin Douglas, right? So Erin, I'm going to invite you on now. Let's do this. So you met with Easy Recruit, French guys. Awesome. Can you give us a quick update on what they are, like a quick overview?
Yeah, sure. So Easy Recruit does video, chatbot, and assessment, based in Paris. Really, really brilliant business. And Erin can probably explain it better than me.
Thanks.
Big pressure there. Big pressure. So I've invited Erin. I suspect there's maybe something wrong with our invites here because no one's actually accepting these things. But that's okay. Oh, there she is.
Can you guys hear
Hello,
me?
Erin. Yeah, I can hear you. Good to meet you, Erin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Thanks for joining the show. And Adam just mentioned that you would do a much better job than him in explaining very briefly what Easy Recruit are all about. So I wonder whether you could help him with that, Erin.
Sure. So we are basically a continental European-based HR tech company. Traditionally, we've been known in our flagship product, how we got started was on-demand video interviewing. I'm sure you guys are probably no stranger to the concept of. But recently, we've been branching out into other types of video-based products and actually particularly video-based assessments, and expanding our range to include chatbots, to include career pathing solutions and interview scheduling and things like this.
Okay, so this is an interesting expansion of the tech because we've seen lots of things happening within the video interview side of things. Some of them have kind of doubled down on going more the AI route, so to speak, and doing facial recognition and all this type of stuff. You guys are using video in a slightly different way alongside with that, and it is explain to me sort of what that sort of additional service is, Erin. What makes that different from the original products, and is it kind of a supplementary product to what you already have?
Yeah, sure. So we're basically, we've taken our original video interviewing product. We, of course, have injected it with AI as well, because we found this was something that really benefited our customers, that already they were saving time with the whole concept of on-demand video interviewing, that they were able to save time using their phone, from doing the phone screen to doing something that was more efficient. But actually what they were asking us to do was to save them even more time and basically use AI to recommend the best people, the best candidates, based actually on the videos themselves and based on our analysis of the verbal content, the prosody, the gestures, the facial expressions, and things like this. Based on their previous track record of assessing candidates and what the recruiters seem to like in their candidates, to use that to analyze future videos and future campaigns. So that's basically what we've been doing with the on-demand video interviewing, to make it more compelling and help recruiters save even more time. And then basically what we've branched out into is we said, okay, here we've got this really strong component, which is video. Video is something that's very popular in recruitment, and actually we can go a step further and use it for other types of assessments. So not just assessing soft skills and motivation, but assessing things like language communication skills, which, for example, customer service positions, BPO, outsourcing, contact centers, you often have, candidates who need to be able to speak multiple languages, and we can use it to assess, in fact, their communication skills.
So can you talk a bit about prosody again? Because in a little bit more depth, because that's not about the exact words that somebody's saying. That's about tone and stress and things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's using verbal content in terms of the words that they choose to say. Are they using common industry jargon, or do they sound like they don't really use the right words that are needed for the particular position? For prosody, it's more, basically the intonation, the stress, the tone, on the words that they're using, based on what we have noticed from successful candidates. And successful candidates are usually defined as, what recruiters have in the past have positively evaluated as, yes, these are candidates that I'd like to meet.
So talk to us about how that translates across languages, because if you take the prosody of somebody in France, for example, it might come across as quite aggressive in the UK, or somebody in the USA might come across as like, I don't know, completely different compared to somebody in the UK, for example. How do you assess all this across languages?
No, so it's absolutely true that obviously the person's first language and their accents and their intonation does play a role. And we're actually doing continuing research on this to see to what extent and to what degree this has an impact. So far, it hasn't had a huge impact based on our preliminary studies in terms of, does it downgrade a candidate's assessment in the eyes of the AI algorithm? So far, no. But we expect that, there's something that we may have to take into consideration and to adjust for, or else it's something that is completely accurate. And actually, if you're hiring a salesperson, you do want somebody that matches the intonation in the English language. For example, a French person, you want him to have the English intonation, or a Chinese person, you want him to have the right intonation if he's going to be selling to customers.
I think on the kind of the client-facing jobs, I'm super comfortable with the use of video tech because it's pretty obvious, and I think the assessment really maps well to the function of the role. The person does have to have the communication skills. They do have to be able to do things like, a respond well. Video probably is going to be the default way in which people are going to communicate business to business in future anyway, if they're not already doing so. So I think it's a completely appropriate method of assessment for those types of roles. How would you handle the criticism that some people might have on video tech about potential bias? Particularly when people are saying, you're making assessments or you're assisting people to make these assessments based on what has happened previously, but are you not then being biased towards individuals that perhaps don't speak well in this context, but in fact, that's not a big part of their job, let's say? Is that something that you've come across, Erin, in your journey working with Easy Recruit?
It's always something that we're looking to guard against, of course. Basically, the algorithm is designed to assist the recruiter, so it's not making a decision for the recruiter himself, because actually that's something here in Europe that just actually wouldn't fly. So it's basically suggesting and ranking certain candidates above others, actually based on how the recruiter has assessed candidates in the past. But of course, bias is something that we're always looking to take into consideration.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that because you could, if you're using this to recommend a specific candidate because of the way that they've expressed themselves, I wonder if that favors people over others for reasons that are not entirely about their ability to do the job.
This is true, Adam, but that may not be the point, because we're still looking at what the human recruiter would still make the same decision, right? So if the human recruiter will make the decision based on interview performance anyway, I think what products like Easy Recruit are saying is that, we can just scale that out and make that faster. And it's not a case where the bias problem is either dealt with or not. It's just simply the case that this bias would occur because a human being would make that decision regardless.
Yeah, exactly. What we're mainly trying to do is just simply save the recruiters even more time. Again, our goal is to reduce the number of, reduce the amount of low added value tasks that the recruiter has to do so that he can spend time or she can spend time engaging the candidate or doing things that really have much more of a human factor that really help the candidate close the candidate, and less on manual things like watching videos necessarily.
Yeah, so as I understand how the product currently works, Erin, what is the case is that you have a recruiter that may have got kind of trained the algorithm, so to speak, by making decisions based on videos that they've seen. Then the technology will understand what that person is looking for when he or she is watching those videos. And then in future, you'll be able to surface out the most relevant candidates based on that training, and therefore reduce the number of videos this recruiter has to watch. Is that more or less, is that right or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Cool.
Exactly. So really, yeah, it's intended to be a recruiter tool and a way to help them to make their job more efficient so that they can focus on the more compelling value-added parts.
Can I ask sort of what companies tend to be buying this product? Do you spot a pattern as to where the demand is for this type of tool?
Yeah, they generally tend to be a lot of client-facing positions, Adam, like you mentioned. We have a lot of companies, I mean, variety of different types of companies and sectors, but again, they are often very much client-facing positions, and generally positions where you often have high volumes of applications as opposed to positions where they're generally, the talent is tough to find and the right candidates are tough to find, and you kind of have to hold their hand and keep them engaged from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think a lot of the critics in video interviewing generally are confused by this, because they assume, like, when they're thinking about video tech, they've got it in their mind that, oh, I've just headhunted this senior exec. How am I going to present him the opportunity to do a video interview? Of course, he's going to be upset with this. But really, it's about applicant flow, isn't it? The video interview is almost always deployed to manage a high volume of inbound. And that is basically in between the advert and the inbox. That's how I describe it. So you position it as a filter on volume, and you make sure that instead of having to manage 10,000 people, you're managing 100. And then you can kind of better manage the flow, better candidate experience, hopefully, and so on.
Yeah, exactly. You don't use it on the senior director that you've headhunted. You're using it on positions with high application flow. Exactly.
Fantastic. Product roadmap, Erin, what else is going on for you guys? I mean, obviously you're building all kinds of products on top of the core, which is fantastic. What is happening next 12 months for Easy Recruit?
Next couple of months for Easy Recruit, we're actually implementing AI into our other video-based language assessments. So this is really exciting, actually, because we're taking something that's already quite revolutionary, which is using video to assess language communication skills, which is currently, we have a team of human evaluators behind the assessment who actually score and rate the different candidates on their language skills. And actually what we're doing here is taking the human evaluators out of the picture and having it evaluated automatically using AI. So it's the same kind of AI principles that we discovered that we can actually apply to other video-based assessments.
That's a very interesting comment that Kobe Schneider's just made there. Kobe, great to have you on board. She just mentioned that video interviewing can slow the process. So kind of is counterproductive because managers want to actually have dialogue with other managers before they come to a decision. Have you experienced this? Or how would you
share the video with the whole team and find out what they all think, and then
Yeah, it is one of the benefits for sure of the video interview is that instead of having a recruiter who does a phone screen and the recruiter is the only one who's had the inputs and heard the feedback from the candidate, that you actually have something shareable within the team. I guess, yeah, so that is something, it's one of the benefits, but it sounds like it's also one of the drawbacks as well. And then basically, I basically set a time limit on the committee decision and say, okay, guys, we need to move forward with this candidate or with this job requisition. And so, let's try to make a decision by a specific date.
You know what, and I wonder, Kobe, because video tech generally is still quite new. I just wonder whether that may have something to do with the newness of it. And perhaps people might get quicker with the decision making once they get a bit more familiar with it. But a fascinating angle that potentially can slow things down because you've created a shareable asset that gets shared. Yeah.
Well, it's like when the hiring manager says, "Could you I want to hire robotics engineers in Seattle? Could you create me a map of all the robotics engineers in Seattle. You give them that list, and then they start cherry picking the ones that they want. Like, that totally slows everything before you've even approached the candidate. I think that there's pros and cons of involving hiring managers at that stage at all.
It's a hiring manager psychology that probably we need to do another show on, like how much information do you share? Because you don't want to give a sense of abundance when the abundance isn't actually there. Because they then might have a very elevated view as to what they want, when in fact all you're doing is doing some market research. None of these candidates could be live. So yeah, interesting one.
So here's another point. So Grace has made a point saying that she finds that using videos instead of the initial phone screen and then only sharing the successful candidates limits the debate. I do appreciate that, but I wonder, is this an additional process in the recruitment, or is it replacing something?
No, it replaces something. I mean, I think it clearly replaces the first stage telephone interview, or even bits of the first stage in-person interview. I think when video tech, I mean, this is me going way back, right? So when I first encountered video tech, my first impression was, this might replace that experience of inviting someone in for an interview that straight away is not right, and removing that sort of complete waste of time from both sides. And I think it still does a little bit of that. So I don't think it's an additional bit of admin. I think it kind of is half replacing the telephone screen, half replacing the in-person first interview.
I'm not sure if it is. I think it's an additional step for the candidate, but it's maybe meaning that you only need to do first interviews with 4 instead of maybe the 6 that you would have done previously. Yeah,
the candidate has to do more, a little bit more, but in the end, they might be saving time. Like one of the things that we probably underestimate is how a bad candidate experience is also an interview they don't progress in typically. And it's a waste of that person's time, especially if they're making other decisions on other interviews to attend. So I think if we get better at that, then that's not a bad thing. On Nick Livingston's point, you're absolutely right. Interviews are two-way conversation, so we do need to have new language to describe this. It probably isn't an interview; it's an assessment. So yeah, we're mixing languages together and probably confusing things. So thank you very much, Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, very interesting. Well, Erin, thank you so much for your time. You've been great to get a little bit of insight from a vendor on this. It'd be great to understand a little bit more in future as to what the journey of Easy Recruit is, especially within the French market. I have to be honest, I'm super ignorant of what is going on generally in the continent, but especially France. So I definitely want to know more about what you guys are doing, and I'll be keeping an eye on you. But thank you very much for joining the show, Erin. It's been a great pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
So where are we now, Adam? Do we bring Mark back on? Shall we give it another shot? Or are we... In fact, I will give Mark another shot. Let's see how he is. But I tell you what, that was very interesting, because obviously it's going down a certain direction, video tech. I think it's becoming one of these... I think the controversies will emerge, particularly when it becomes more widely applied and what the implications of it all are. I'm generally still a supporter of it, because I just think that, you know what, if human beings are still making biased decisions at some point, which I honestly think we're never going to get away with, if we're hiring people to work with us on this permanent basis, I think we will be making biased decisions. Then it may not be a bad thing to get there quicker. Is that heresy to say? Because, you know, if you're going to waste a bunch of time and still make a biased decision, then why not actually not waste that time and make the biased decision you're always going to make?
Make more biased decisions more effectively. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, yeah, you make your mistakes faster, or you just get the decision done. I mean, sometimes if you're going to just make a call on it, then it's better to do it quick rather than just expend energy trying to get a better result when you're not going to get a better result. So yeah, I mean, that's probably, I've uttered probably a heresy for which I fully expect to be flamed on. But anyway, moving swiftly on, we finally have Mark Lundgren on.
Yay.
So Mark, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you very much for being patient. I'm sorry we couldn't get you on earlier.
No worries.
But we want to talk to you about video in a different context, which is candidate outreach. Because I think you've been one of the very early users of this. Can you quickly explain to us what this is, what you use, and why do you think it works?
Yeah, so rather than kind of using that one-to-many of whether you do an employment branding video on your phone and putting it wherever you are, or using that on social media to kind of get exposure to either you as a recruiter or your company. What I'm using is using personal videos that could be anything from 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and sending that either through the messaging platforms directly to people as cold outreach or in emails. So rather than writing long emails and spending half an hour to personalizing it or copy pasting whatever template you have and trying to make that personal. Using a video, like once you get used to it, a 1 minute video takes you 1 minute to shoot. Similar to you, I've been using Loom a lot. Still one of the main ones that I'm using, mainly because it just drops it into wherever I need to use, and people click through. It's the landing page. The company I originally got the idea from is a company called Vidyard. It's an email marketing platform in the US, or in Canada actually. So they're using it in their outbound sales. So very much with it kind of comes back to kind of Katrina Collier's on making ourselves be more human and showing people that I'm not just another recruiter with you can see I'm a recruiter. You can see my email. I'm going to write roughly the same thing as every recruiter has written for the last 100 emails that you've gotten, especially in the tech space. It's showing like who is it you're going to be speaking to if you do my call to action, which is set up a call with me. Who am I, and just making that more personal, and getting that across that you want to get across without having to wordsmith it a lot. You could be a lot more quirky in person on a video than trying to put emojis and things that might be misunderstood that you're trying to be fun in an email. Because you have the body language as well. So yeah, really good response. Even people like, look,
Well, there's an example of video not working. It's just literally frozen in mid-view. Good thing Mark's got a kind of, he looks decent on video. So Mark, we lost you there for about the last 30 seconds. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, I'm saying you're not going to do that with high volume. You're not going to do hundreds of videos every day. But if you're saying like, look, instead of me sending 100 emails every day, let me send 20 emails with a video in it. So but you end up getting a lot higher response rate, both positive response and people who are just saying like, well, look, the timing isn't right. So yeah, it's just. Look, it came around with when the whole kind of industry was going to, well, we need to hyper-personalize all our email outreach and do lots of research. I have no problem doing research. That's my bread and butter, and it's what I love to do. But then getting that and then making an email format that isn't misunderstood and getting my point across, for me, video was much easier. Once you get over that kind of initial thing, was like, oh, my God, I'm on video. Like I made a mistake. Just own it, like show that you're human by saying the thing wrong or like doing their name wrong, whatever it is. And I mean, with Loom and all the video platforms, you can always reshoot it. You're like, I didn't like that one. I'm going to do another one. So it takes you another minute to do that. But, if you have half an hour every morning or whenever is best light for you, for me, it's in the afternoon because that's when I have the sunlight in my window. You spend that kind of half an hour you have all your research, you do your 20 people, it takes you half an hour, you have 20 emails that's gone out that you can then follow up on with normal text. And that it's like, okay, if somebody's going to see that, which you can track because whether they click through, they're going to know who they're going to be speaking to if they do my call to action, which is always to set up a call with me.
Yeah, you know what? I really like you breaking down the modus operandi there. So what you're saying is that you will generate a list of candidates that you're going to contact. So first contact, this is what we're talking about. But then you'll wait, you'll schedule it in your own diary to do it at a time when you're comfortable, and you'll bulk record a bunch of messages to these people, each individuated, and then you'll send it out. And the purpose of this is basically it's faster than writing customized emails per person, which I think is definitely true.
It comes back to what my call to action is as well. Like if I send out 200 emails and if I have a really good response because I personalize that, my calendar is going to fill up for the next 2 weeks. By splitting them out and saying, look, I'm going to do 20 every morning or every afternoon for the week, every day. Then I'm doing 100 a week, and I know that there's always an open spot in my calendar at a time that fits them within the next 2 weeks, rather than like we've had situations where we were sourcing for recruiters and like the call to action was to set up a call with them, but their calendar was blocked for the next 2 weeks because we were doing it too much. So like for me, it's also like, I don't want to shoot 100 videos because at the end of it, no matter how personal you try to be, it's still going to sound like a robot. It's a bit like when you're doing graduate recruitment and you're doing interviews, you're like, I hear the same answer 200 times now. So for me, it's about like just feeling fresh and it's like, okay, this is it. 20 I can do. It takes half an hour. And then I know that I have a steady stream of people who are watching my video and hopefully clicking through on the call to action, but also that I can follow up on with the plain text emails or do like there's another email kind of format is a lot of the candidates have said, look, you never looked at my profile. Like I'm not what you think I am. So just show them. It's like, look, this is their portfolio. This is what stood out to me when we were looking. These are the keywords that you hit. This is why I'm contacting you. So you kind of get over that thing. And like, again, with Loom, it's easy because you're on their GitHub or whatever portfolio page they have. And you're like, look, this is what stood out to me. I would love to talk more about. Again, that's, a 30-second, 45-second video, but it shows them the research that you've already done. You're just showing them what you got out of that. And then hopefully on that call, like you got it right, or they can set you straight.
The logic seems flawless to me. I mean, I'm very surprised that more people are not doing this. Can you explain what's your theory, Mark? Like you're one of the first people that kind of embrace this, but I don't see it as being pervasive. I still think people are not doing this. So why is that the case?
It's a bit like when we come back to the discussion, it's like why more people not cold calling? Like I started as a telemarketer and I hated calling, but you have to get over it. Part of why I started doing YouTube channel as well is just to get yourself over. Like I hate listening to myself on videos. I hate listening to recordings of my own voice. And because it's just you and the computer, you're not actually talking to anybody. We're all doing video calls with Zoom and like team meetings and things like that, but you're looking at somebody. When the person you're looking at is yourself, not everybody is comfortable with that. So it's just kind of getting over that and it's like own the mistakes. And it's like, well, look, that makes you look human. So I think that's part of it. The technical part of it is not big. Loom is for free. You can have up to 100 videos. And then I think their pro plan for unlimited videos at any time is like $8 a month. So it's not even the cost of it, but it's the whole thing is like, well, look, if you're only sending out emails, then yeah, you're not going to change anything. But even on LinkedIn, like I love who you were talking to, Ryan, you were talking to last week as well. It's like, I love the tool. Unfortunately, the plans that they have isn't fit for what I use and the way that I work, because it's very much geared to agencies with more seats. But I loved, and when I saw that they came out with their LinkedIn kind of thing, people you're already connected to, put a video in there. Like, yes, it's something I do as well, but it takes more time because I need to upload it to YouTube and kind of have it linked so it looks nice. So it's not just a link. So yeah, things like that. I love tools like that. And at the end of the day, look, it's nothing more than shoot a video on your phone and put it into a LinkedIn Messenger or Facebook Messenger window, similar to what you're saying, Hong. Just getting it out there, like you're walking anyway. Like I'm just shoot a video and get it out. You can do the same thing with a lot of these tools that you can shoot it on your phone while you're walking somewhere anyway. And then by the time you get to the office, you have your 20 videos and you can shoot them off.
You know what? I think that I'm totally convinced by this, and I'm surprised if more people, in fact, I'm going to be annoyed if people don't start doing more of it, because you just mentioned in-mails and how much money are we spending on in-mails and how effective are they really? When you've got free video tool, you can record a video, you can do it in less time and get more results out of it. So I think candidate outreach, video, first contact, it's a no-brainer. And use the Ryan from Odro technique. Adam, what was that again? Can you repeat for the audience?
Just put it on a bit of paper.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
That's it.
Post-it notes are brilliant as well, because no matter what size you use, it's fitting that in. I have a small whiteboard behind me, but sometimes it's like, it fits like, where do I actually put it in the frame? Put the name on the Post-it notes, and I mean, with the tool like Vidyard, they do a GIF for the first kind of couple of seconds. That the thing that they see in the email is the GIF. So if they see some movement and their name on a Post-it notes, it's like, that's definitely a higher click-through rate than that.
To recognize it's not being spam is the first thing. You can use your phone. Big Words is the app, right? You can just write that in. And
save the trees with large font. Yes,
that's it. We'll go back to the fonts. But anyway, I think that's it for the day. I think it's been a really interesting show. Video is just too big to do in one thing, I think. This is all of the 5 use cases we talked about, I think probably deserve its own show. But I think that if recruiters are not embracing this at this point, they're going to miss out, and they're going to miss out in a big way, because someone's going to really develop the skill set to be able to do this effectively. And they're the ones that are going to win the candidate engagement argument. The ones that are pinging out emails and just going nuts with high volume stuff, forget about it. That's just not happening. Okay, that's about it. So thank you everyone for watching. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Adam, thank you for coming and joining us also, as ever. We'll be back next week. Next week, Adam, you're not here, I understand. But I tell you something, folks, we've got an amazing show next week. Why? Because we were talking recruitment podcasting, and who has got the stars of the recruitment podcasting world coming to join us in Recruiting Brainfood? Yes, sir. We've got Chad and Cheese. We've got Matt Alder. We've got Laurie Ruderman. We've got Lars Schmidt. We've got everyone who does podcasting in recruitment going to join the show next week, Brainfood Live on air. So make sure you sign up for that. We're signing off. Everybody, have a very good weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.